running up the score.
You're listening to the Running Up the Score podcast. Now here's your hosts, Jerry Napoleonello and Kevin Donlin.
So we haven't had a guest on the podcast in a very long time, and with us revamping the show, there was one person I knew I wanted to bring on first. We have the hottest hands in the hobby, the creator of the Positivity Palace, one half of the Logo Bros. I'm excited to say we got TrizztheRipper from Backyard Breaks on the podcast today. What's going on, dude?
Thank you, man. What an intro. Honestly, I feel like I'm not even deserving of all that, but listen, I'll take it, dude. I'm just a kid ripping sports cards, bro. But all that sounded real. That sounded good.
Good. Good. I wanted to.
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. I got a stream tonight, which I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
And we got a big event on Sunday. We're doing mystery packs with our guy Jay Hicks, so I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
But no, man, I'm good. How are you? How are things?
You know, getting there. You know, everything. It's nice that we like revamped the podcast because we really started getting into sports cards. So I was like, you know what better way to really revamp this podcast to add that. You know, I mean, even Derek Jeter's getting into the hobby. So it's like,
dude.
You know,
business
is booming, you know?
Yes, it is. It's a good time for the hobby.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, like you said, dude, Derek Jeter jumping in by starting a grading company. I mean, out of nowhere.
I know. And I mean, that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you because, you know, we have a bunch of vaults. You know, there's a couple of, you know, obviously there's a lot of grading companies. Where do you think Derek Jeter fits in that? Like, where do you know, with his vault and, you know, his grading service?
So my first thing is I like that he's taking that approach to entering the hobby. I think it's a cool way of hopping in. And I think with his notoriety, he'll be able to get a little bit of legitimacy already coming out the gate for the company, which is obviously, in my opinion, the biggest barrier to entry for a service like grading, right? Because you want it to be trustable.
Absolutely.
For me, that's one of the things that I have a love-hate relationship with it, right? Because if you send a card to PSA, it could be the most perfectly centered, perfect card you've ever seen in your entire life, and it could get an 8. And it could be, you know, the most off-centered card with a dimple on the surface, and it could get a 10.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, variability is cool for PSA because it creates, like, it creates the market. You know, you need to have 9s, you need to have 8s. You can't have a million 10s walking around of every single card, or else, you know, the market on it's just going to be completely torched. And same thing with 9s, same thing with everything. So that's a little bit of my thought process on grading in general. Coming back to Jeter, I think if the grading is accurate, I think that's what a lot of the industry is missing.
Yeah.
I think Beckett does a little better job of that, but I think if the grading's accurate with his name behind it, I like the look of the slabs, which is another huge part of it too, right?
Yeah.
You got to like what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think he could do good things. I think he could definitely do good things. And again, in my opinion, hobby in general, guys like Derek Jeter becoming a part of it are just great news for hobbyists at large. Just, again, legitimacy for the hobby, let alone his company.
Absolutely. So now, before we get into, you know, deeper stuff in the hobby, how did you get into the hobby?
So I love telling this story. So I was going to go to law school. I had like a 75% scholarship to UF for law.
Nice.
And I got deferred acceptance. So I had to wait a year to get in.
Okay.
So in that year, meantime, my parents, myself, obvious thought process is get a job at a law office, get a little opportunity, you know what I mean? Get a little experience. And I'm on my way home, having just gotten off the phone with like a prominent patent attorney in South Florida to get an internship. I was going to send him a formal email, whatever. And Grant Telford calls me. He was my pledge brother.
Okay.
We went to FSU together. We were pledge brothers. He calls me, goes, he's just catching up. And then he's like, what are you doing for the summer for work in the meantime? I was like, I think I'm going to get a job at a law office. I'm on my way to write the email. He goes, what if I told you I have a job. You'll make at least $50 an hour. You can work on your own time and you'll have a good time doing it. What do you say? I said, okay, what are you talking about? Because I hadn't even seen him posting card stuff yet.
Yeah.
I had just seen the Backyard Athlete. If anybody knows, you know about the Frisbees.
Yeah, that's how I started following them, was through like the little Frisbee thing. I was like, wow, like, and when I ended up, learning more about, sports cards, I started, looking at Backyard, and I was like, wait, why do I recognize this guy? And that's how it.
It's amazing that you've been following since the Frisbees, because not a lot of people know about that.
Yeah.
But yes, so it started off with the Frisbees. That's all I knew that was happening with him. And I would talk to him about it all the time, because I'm the kind of person where I just find all of that interesting. If there's money floating around anything obscure, I find it interesting. Like, you know what I mean? I want to know what's going on. So with the Frisbees, he was keeping me up to date on like his markup and how much he was getting it at. He had me like in on the whole business model essentially. So I was following him with that. And then he calls me, he's like, oh, I'm doing this card thing now. I was like, okay. He's like, look, even if you don't want to do it, just come in and watch me do it to see if you're interested. And I was like, all right, fine. So I drive to Boca. We're in this little garage, literally a garage. And it's just him doing what we do right now, screaming at the phone. And at the time, dude, even Grant, as big as he is now and as big as, like, some of the breaks have become with us, was ripping legacy packs, like just packing out legacy boxes.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know what that means for like non-card hobby enthusiasts, rather than selling multiple boxes at once, you take a single box that has 2 autographs in it, and you essentially pack it out one by one of the 20 packs, and people are gambling to try and hit one of the 2 autographs.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he's packing it out. And he's like, all right, you've seen me do it. What do you think? I was like, I mean, it seems easy enough. He's like, just come in and try it. You'll make good money. Worst case scenario, I'll pay you $300 myself just for coming in. I was like, okay, fine. What do I have to lose?
Exactly.
I come in, I rip packs. I sell it was the craziest thing. I sold a Panini 1-in-1. And at the time, that was a huge box. You know what I mean? We're packing out $20 packs. Some dude comes in, buys a $500, $600 Panini 1. And a Panini 1 football from 2020.
Yeah.
And I was just I think I pulled a Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, wow.
And I was just amazed that someone spent that much money on a box of sports cards, let alone one card.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like what's going on here? So I get home, I explain it all to my parents, and they like their first thought is this a scam? Like, is this some sort, you know what I mean? It's like so crazy for them to wrap their head around a $500 box. They're like, what if it was one of them bidding on the box, from one of their accounts to convince you that this is legit? And I was like, I don't think Grant's like that, though. Lo and behold, I start doing this. And mind you, dude, I did not know who Justin Fields was prior to ripping sports cards. And that's the craziest thing for a lot of people that I talk to about this to wrap their head around. I was learning on the fly. I didn't know.
Okay.
Now, obviously, I have a good grip. You know what I mean? On college. Professional, obviously. I know what I'm talking about now, but it took 2 years of learning. But that's how I started, man.
That's an awesome.
And before I finish, the line Grant used was, and I quote, because I can't make this up, and this is the most Grant thing ever. It's so easy, a monkey could do it. That was how he described breaking sports cards.
That's definitely Grant. That definitely seems like it'd be coming out of Grant. I mean, that's an amazing story because, to be totally honest with you, I collected when I was younger. I'm 32 now. So like when I was younger, it was like, oh, I had a binder of just cards and I would always go to the card store, get a pack here, there, whatever. But it was never in, collectible type of form. And, I remember hearing Gary Vee, like right before the pandemic, say, oh, you know what? I'm going to start investing in sports cards again. So I was like, maybe let me just, pull out the binder and see what I got. I'm looking them up on eBay, dollar card here, dollar card there. So I just gave up on it. I was like, whatever. And then my buddy, who also is my co-host on the podcast, he's like, listen, he's like, I need your editing skills for like video and everything. I want to get into sports cards. So I'm like, all right. So I sat down, knew nothing about the cards, nothing like, obviously I know the athletes. So, I'm looking at cards, and that's the craziest thing about, the hobby is that you really can't go by, the great players, at any position. It's literally the hype of rookies or, whatnot. So, I remember sitting there and they're breaking a box. I forget what it was. And they pulled a card. I was like, oh, wow, that's great. Oh, actually, you know what? 2013 Luminance. And we pulled a DeAndre Hopkins rookie card. I was like, holy crap, this is great. And we look it up on eBay, and it was $20. And I was
about to say probably like 25.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is up with this?
Uh-huh.
So that's just the craziest thing to me, in terms of the hobby is that, guys that aren't even proven are going for the craziest prices compared to the guys that are proven. And it's like, $20 here, $20 there. It's crazy. But how do you think that Fanatics, this whole thing with Fanatics, how do you think that's going to change the hobby? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it depends on the position you're in the hobby. Okay. I think, look, all of it's speculation, right? We don't know what exactly it is they're going to do. I've heard Michael Rubin speak a couple of times, and I like what he has to say. I mean, the one thing that I saw all over social media was that he was saying, like, let's get rid of redemptions, which I love.
Awesome.
And for those of you who don't know what redemptions are, because how familiar is your podcast with sports cards?
We just started introducing them to it. I mean, if you want, you can kind of give a broad, definition on breaking, because I kind of did.
Sure.
But yeah, like not many, like, because we started out as a sports podcast. Then it just got way too much to like really focus in on every sport. And if we're doing it once a week, to have baseball playing every day, basketball playing every day, it was just hard to keep up for a 1 day a week podcast. So we just transitioned to all football because that was the one thing that we knew and we were the best at talking about. So so the fact that like we just literally, I think we got 2 or 3 podcasts in where we spoke about sports cards. So I mean, if you want to give a broad definition of breaking and then get into, Fanatics and all that, you can.
Sure. So breaking is my job. That's what I do. And to describe it simply, the average break for me, or breaking in general, is taking several boxes. It could be a single box, but usually several boxes of sports cards from either, different sports. So I could do the brand new year of basketball with Kate Cunningham rookies, or I could do the brand new year of football with Trevor Lawrence rookies and put one of each of those boxes in a break. And then I auction off teams from $1 is what we do on Whatnot. But, sometimes people sell teams at fixed prices. But basically, you purchase a team rather than the box, and every player from that team goes to you. So if I have the Jaguars in a break, every Trevor Lawrence card is coming to me, whether it's $100,000 or $1. And I feel like that's, that covers it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
More or less.
Yeah.
And Fanatics, as you all may know, is a sports, wear company, among many other things, a sports conglomerate, essentially, at this point.
Yeah.
And they've purchased the rights to sports cards from Panini, who currently has it, for NFL, NBA, and MLB rights. So they're going to be selling sports cards soon, and they're going to change the industry. There's the overview. Yeah. So Josh Luber is the creative director of the sports card, something like that.
He changed his job title, from the beginning of that. But yeah, that's
right.
I think
his job title seems to be very flexible.
Yeah.
But he was essentially the one who founded StockX, which is the current sneaker marketplace. So sneakers, obviously, a lot of people know, like vintage Jordans, all that kind of stuff, sell for a lot of money. StockX is the marketplace for it, right?
Yeah.
I think what Fanatics is going to do, their 2 biggest moves, in my opinion, that are really going to change the game for the better for everyone, is they're going to create a marketplace for cards, just like there's a marketplace for StockX. Because right now, I think the only other company that's really doing that is Golden, who's leading the way, at least, in that. And I think Fanatics is going to create a marketplace for all cards, not just the high end. Like Golden is I think Golden's trying to trickle down and start high and expand into everything.
Okay.
But I think Fanatics is going to start from the ground, which will be really good for the average hobbyist. And the other thing that they're going to do is make a shift towards culture cards, which I'm super, super excited about for the future of cards in general, not just sports cards, because you already saw it with the Jackass cards,
Yes,
which are selling really well.
Yeah.
And those were a Fanatics product and a Zero Cool, which is Luber's company product. And I think they're going to start doing it with musical artists, pop culture figures like the Kardashians, because I don't know if you've seen, there's like a Kim Kardashian card from either Topps or something like that sells for crazy money. It's a Kim Kardashian auto. I wanted to buy it.
Oh, really?
Before the hype of, I'm a buyer into that. I think culture cards are going to blow up, and I think their original ones, like the Jackass, I have a few Jackass cards I'm holding on to.
Yeah.
And the ones like the Kim Kardashian auto, for example, or like there's a Jay-Z rookie card from Topps. I have that. I'm trying to buy the refractor version.
Okay.
But I think that's going to be a really cool. It's no one's talking about that, right? Because everyone's focused on sports. I think the culture cards are going to be a really, really fun shift. Like Gary Vee, for example, with his rhinoceros or whatever, you know, the animals and all that. I don't know too much about it.
Yeah.
But I think Fanatics is going to do really good things in that department. I think Fanatics is going to favor the card breaking community rather than the distributors, right? And part of the problem for me, at least, is I'm getting boxes at a pretty high price. So I have to sell them at said high price to make margins, right? So we're not in the red. But that's because these distributors who know they're getting potentially phased out are trying to squeeze this game for everything they can right now.
Yeah.
And I understand that. They're trying to get their money's worth while they still can before they get out, because it doesn't look like they have a plan. A lot of them are trying to convert into breaking companies. Like We The Hobby was a distribution company.
Okay.
And now they're making a little bit of headway as a breaking company.
Yeah.
But that's why you're seeing this shift to so many breaking companies. And I wonder how many of them are really going to make it out.
Yeah.
I think there's, a lot to be said about, again, how Fanatics is going to treat the breaking community and how they're going to try and bring boxes there. But I think it'll be good for the hobby too, because if they're favoring us, we're getting it at a lower price point. We can bring it to the customer at a lower price point.
Exactly.
The breaks become a little more cost effective, which right now they're expensive because wax is expensive. Very.
Yes.
And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of positive change. I think Michael Rubin is a really smart guy. I don't think they're going to spend billions of dollars to acquire rights and not have a really good plan in place. So I'm excited. I think Fanatics will be really, really good for the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, speaking on the culture cards, I mean, even when we were at the National, they had the Stranger Things, and they were showing that stuff. So that's, that's interesting. And, the fact that you said that's, I could see that more, especially now, with Fanatics taking over. But in terms of, I guess, personal, like, who do you PC, in terms of, sports cards, at least?
My guys, my ultimate hold, Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
Buy him right now. I think he's going to be the guy.
Okay.
I know it's big talk. I think Luka is also going to be the guy. I mean, he's almost proven it at this point. He basically is already.
Yeah.
But we're going to see right now, and this is also why I'm buying Ant-Man so heavily, and a thing to think about with sports cards in general. The market and the hype around a player is very important. Their notoriety, their namesake, how familiar they are to the average person. Ant-Man was just a fantastic role in an Adam Sandler movie on Netflix. I'm sure everyone saw Hustle.
True. Yep.
He killed that, bro.
Yeah,
Kermit Wiltz was like a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, even the talking crap and everything, he was good.
It was believable, bro. Yeah. I hated him. I hated the character of Kermit, so he did a good job, So that got me all the more excited about the fact that I was already buying him, and I love his play. I think his play style is sustainable because he's not like John Morant's amazing, but I worry about his sustainability. Every time he lands from one of those crazy dunks, I'm looking at his ankles every time. It's all I can think about. I hope the best for him. I think he's, could be a generational talent if he, can sustain that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, Anthony Edwards is my buy. That's my PC. I also really like Bones Highland for basketball. I also really like Davion Mitchell. super underrated two-way guard. Watch his defensive highlights. It's all you need to see.
Yeah.
And you'll fall in love with the kid. And he's super cheap. That's why I love Davion Mitchell. He's so cheap. In terms of, in my opinion, his value. And then football, I have a few big Justin Herberts. Have to hold that kid.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, did you see some of those fourth down throws? He didn't win the game, but he's going against Patrick Mahomes.
Even with,
no one should fault themselves for losing against Patrick Mahomes.
Even with a fractured, rib, and it showed a lot. And I've liked Justin Herbert since he came into the league. I think he's going to be one of, if not the best quarterback in the league, within a year or two, if he's not already. The thing that, first of all, before I get to that, I'm going to guess just by your PC that your favorite sport is basketball.
That's correct.
Okay.
I love football, but I've been a diehard Miami Heat fan my whole life growing up. I played basketball my whole life growing up. That's where the heart lies.
Yeah, definitely. I figured that. And I know that you're a Dolphins fan. I know you're a Heat fan. So I was like, but I know that you you just going by your breaks and, the way that you're talking. I knew basketball was your favorite sport. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Okay.
And I'm one of the guys that, everybody calls a front runner, but I'm not really a front runner because I'm a Cowboys and a Lakers fan. Now, the perfect way I put
you got to
this,
justify that Lakers fandom right now.
I am justifying it. So I am not in any way, shape, or form a LeBron James fan. I don't like LeBron at all. So that right there, I justify pretty well when it comes to the Lakers.
Yeah.
I was always fascinated by Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was my guy. Obviously when I was younger, they were pretty good, especially when I started to was really watching sports. I mean, the 2000s, that team was ridiculous, between,
insane.
Kobe and Shaq, Robert Horry, Rick Fox, Derek Fisher, guys like that.
Can't forget Paul Gasol.
Exactly. And, that Kobe was just always my guy. So it was just, my dad was a Lakers fan, so he kind of passed it on to me because Showtime was huge when he was a kid. So It just, and with the Cowboys were good in the 90s, obviously. But my dad, my grandfather never really watched sports. So when my dad watched football, it was always on Thanksgiving. So the Cowboys always played on Thanksgiving. So it just stuck. And, obviously when he was younger, they were good in the 70s, the late 70s. Then they got really good in the 90s, obviously. And now I've become a bigger fan than my dad. So it's,
nice.
It's just
there
the way.
Go.
So, and I've always been a huge Tony Romo fan. Tony Romo was my guy, and I hated Dak for the first, year or two that he took over, Romo's spot, but that's not here nor there.
I'm a fan of Dak now. Let that go on the record. And
okay.
I said it when we were doing our Hall of Fame break where, everyone was talking about divisional wins and everything.
Yeah.
I took the Cowboys this year out of the NFC East. Now, how is that looking after week one? Maybe not so good.
Yeah.
But I always am one of those guys, and everyone says it every year, but I'm one of those guys who's such a believer, and I fall into the trap of it's the Cowboys year. Dak, Zeke, all of that. I always believe. Always.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a fan.
Yeah. It's hard because they always look good on paper. And it's you know what? Dak is another year older. It's he's just getting more. He's gotten better each year, and that was the one thing that I liked about Dak. But going back to cards. First of all, were you able to make this a full-time job?
Yes.
That's awesome.
For sure. Now I can't. I'm very blessed. Let me say, while I do mention that this is my full-time job, to have the backyard as my segue into this world, because dude, Grant, all the credit due to Grant Brochnick, 3 owners, especially Grant, of just building this brand into what it's become and such a juggernaut in this space of card breaking. Yeah. Because dude, I came in and all the credit due also, while we're on the subject, to JMO,
Yeah.
Because he's really the one who built the Backyard Rips account into what it's become. You know, we're the biggest on the Whatnot app now.
Yeah.
And I will give him the credit for that. I don't deserve it. I was a great second fiddle to him for a really long time because I wasn't taking this as seriously as I should have. I didn't realize the potential of the cards, the breaks, all of it. I didn't buy in myself. I didn't fall in love with cards until about a year in.
Okay.
And now, you know, I feel like everybody jokes around about it and all this stuff, the logo bro rivalry or whatever. But, you know, more or less, it's me and J-Mo, you know, running this thing now together.
Yeah.
But for a long time, it was him. And again, all credit due. But yes, that's why I'm able to make it my full-time job, because I have an audience ready to go and I was able to step into that, you know, and, you know, I do my thing, but I give credit where it's due. And that's why.
Absolutely.
It's because of them.
I mean, just like, you know, going into this, I was like, oh, maybe this is awesome. I love breaking the boxes. I love, you know, just everything about it. It's that thrill that I don't know. I don't want to say competitiveness, but it's that thrill of like getting ready to like, you know, play a game or something like that. And that's
a rush.
Yeah. And I loved it. And that's why I really focused in on it now, you know, hopefully starting up, you know, Ruts breaks and stuff like that. But, you know, obviously the prices are crazy, as you said before. Like that's what's keeping a lot of, you know, people from getting into breaking and stuff like that. So they have to get into the breaks and whatnot. But, you know, just overall, you know, I admire everything that you guys have done over there at Backyard. I mean, just everything that you guys deal with, you know, all the haters, you know, everybody's got haters, but if you got haters, that means you're doing something good. So That's why I don't listen to anything that anybody else says.
Any of the noise.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. But, you know, I was able to meet you at the National. You guys, you know, everybody at Backyard was awesome. You know, the party, the UFC watch party that we went to, that was, you know, you guys are a lot of fun. I will say Grant and Nikki and all their nut jobs.
Characters.
And I loved it. And it was just funny because, you know, my dad knows nothing about sports cards, and I brought him with me to the show, and he was looking and I mean, like, I felt like I had to keep lifting up his jaw, you know, from all the prices, you know, at every table. It was crazy. And I just wanted to say that, you know, I appreciate you guys in every single way.
Of course, man.
But before we end this, I want to know, what is your favorite product to rip in a break? And then I'll ask you what your favorite product is to dome for yourself.
Okay. Damn. First off, let me just say I'm already upset that you said you're going to end this after these questions, because I could have sat here talking to you all day, honestly. I'm ready to come back whenever.
All right, cool.
Whenever you'll have me, I'm ready.
Perfect.
I love this. Because honestly, dude, I just love talking about the hobby. Cards in general.
I mean, it's
because like my girlfriend doesn't want to hear it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anybody who doesn't understand doesn't want to hear it either. Yeah. So like being able to voice out opinions and stuff about this is just great. But anyway, favorite product to dome person, I can answer first. Way easier. Contenders basketball, or Contenders football. But for me personally, Contenders basketball. You know, I'm a bigger fan.
Yeah.
I love the cracked ice hunt out of Contenders. It's such a fair price point, in my opinion, for the comps on what those cracked ice cards go for. And dude, there's so many great rookies to hit out of this class, especially like this year. Alperen Sengun is starting to look like he could have like some sort of a breakout at his position. Mobley, Cade, Giddey. I mean, I can keep going. Scotty, you know? Yeah. So that's my favorite to break personally. I have a couple Bones Highland and Davion Mitchell cracked ices that I'm proud of. And then in breaks, dude, I would have to say National Treasures football. It's just, for me, I like hitting cards that change people's lives.
Yeah.
That's the biggest fun for me out of this job, is being able to actually affect someone's like whole life.
Yeah, absolutely.
By just opening one of these boxes. And National Treasures provides that opportunity. The ceiling's just so high, you know? You hit a Trevor True RPA and it's probably what, 30 grand?
Yeah.
You know, like that.
And the people that don't know anything really about the hobby, they're like, how is a piece of cardboard that much money? And it is really hard to explain because you're like, I don't know how to justify the price tag for that, but it's the hype.
Here's how I justify, and here's the easiest way. You ask them, how long have sports cards been around? Because your grandpa was probably collecting sports cards.
Yes.
Now think about, a Tom Brady rookie card, right? This is how I always put it in perspective. I say, think about cards and how long they've been around. Now think about a Tom Brady rookie card. Now that everyone's agreeing he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Right? How much do you think that would be worth? And they're like, oh, that'd probably be worth a good amount of money. And I was like, okay. When people are buying these newer age cards, they're realizing that more money's flooding into the market, which is why the prices on these rookie cards are going up. And they're realizing that some of these young kids could be the next Brady. You don't know, but you're hoping and praying, right? That Trevor Lawrence becomes this generational talent. He doesn't even need to be the next Brady, the next Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And his card of cards out of National Treasures, when all this money is now flooded into the market for years and years and years, right? Because this is 20 years down the line. How much is that going to be worth?
Yeah, it's true.
Who knows?
That's
how I justify it. That's my simple, script.
Yeah.
For running them through it.
And to me, it's crazy that even Pat Mahomes, stock was down leading into this season. I was like, I don't know why. I know he lost Tyreek Hill and he went to your team, but
he's the guy to chase Brady.
Yeah, and that's why I was just like, I was dumbfounded that his stock was down. And I even bought a couple of his cards, nothing crazy, but I was like, I'm definitely going to, if they're down now,
you're gonna make money.
Exactly. And I was like, I can't, I can't not buy this right now.
It's essentially like buying blue chip stock.
Exactly.
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and at this point, it's, in my opinion, established, Herbert and Burrow.
Yeah.
Are essentially blue chip stocks. These are the guys that are going to be running the league. And if the sports card market keeps going, they should increase in value overall from where they are right now. It's like the stock market. It's always going up.
Yeah.
So if you get in when you're young and you buy those blue chips, you buy into the market, you'll make money by the time you're 40, 50. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the same thing.
I even, before the season started, I started buying into Trey Lance. I'm still on the fence now because now I'm like, I don't know. Because at first I was like, the fact that he had the spot, he was the starter way before the preseason started. I was like, this is, all right, they see a lot in him. This is great. The 49ers have a Super Bowl type roster. I was like, this is it. This is the guy. And then when they restructured that contract for Jimmy G, I was like, I don't know. That made me question it. So now I'm like,
a little lack of faith from the Niners.
Yeah, I was like, if they are lacking faith, then what am I supposed to do? I have money in on him, so I'm like, but it's crazy, and that's kind of what makes it's kind of a gamble, and as much as you don't want to advertise gambling. I mean, sports gambling is the biggest thing, especially now that especially in New York where I live. They made it legal, and I was like, this is awesome. Last year I was betting on everything. And sports cards gave me that kind of, that feeling too, but also having that physical, I guess, trophy for that, and that's kind of what I liked about it. But again, before we get out of here, who is your investment? Now, I figured Anthony Edwards is your investment in the NBA. Who's the guy that you're really, really going heavy on? I think you said Herbert before, but is there anybody else that you're looking into?
So here's what I'll say, right? Because there's, like I was saying, there's blue chip stock.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and Herbert are my blue chip stocks. Yeah. I'm throwing as much of my portfolio on them as I can. As much as the bank allows. Underrated guys who I think could make a splash and are not going for what they could be right now. In the NBA, Bones Highland, to me, is a guy with an astronomical amount of potential, Curry style gameplay, and he loves the 3-ball.
Yeah.
And he's got a really good team around him. If he stays in Denver with Jokic, if they can make Jamal Murray work with him somehow, I'm not sure how that will work. But if they could, maybe they offload Murray and pick up some pieces to surround him.
Yeah.
For example, I think he has a lot of potential. And Denver's a big enough market where he'll be relevant should he start popping off.
Yeah.
So that's my very good buy low candidate because he's relatively inexpensive compared to other players from his class. And he's so young. And in football, receivers are just it's a lot of people don't know this, and you obviously have experience in the hobby, so you'll know. Skill positions are not as lucrative as the quarterback. Running back, wide receiver, just not as expensive.
Yeah.
You don't have as much boom potential. But that being said, I love Jalen Waddle, man. I really do. I'm biased, but I got a lot of money in Jalen Waddle in terms of sports cards. I just think he's going to be a force for years. I think he's so quick, and his short route slant catches that everyone knocks off are just such a sustainable, important part of a football game that every quarterback needs. And I think no matter whether it's Tua, no matter whether it's anybody, his quickness off the line is just going to make him an asset to any team he's on for years to come. So I think he'll be a fun hold to see how a receiver who does well, which I think I'm fairly positive he will, how that holds value moving forward.
Well, that's the one thing with that team. You know, Tua is known for his accuracy. That's the one thing. And, you know, he's not really that great at the deep ball. So that short pass, that slant, you know, that's, you know, where he's going to live. That's where he's going to live. And I do like that. I like that a lot. And especially that, you know, this past draft class, you know, you're not really seeing that much hype. You know, obviously, because there's really not that many quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett is really the one guy that, you know, everybody's talking about. Because he really, I think out of everybody, he has the chance to start sooner than like Malik Willis or any of those guys.
For sure.
So, I honestly, because of that, I kind of feel like that skill position, you know, the veterans and, you know, the 1-year vets. And I feel like those guys may even see an uptick because people are going to start, you know, buying into them because there's really no quarterback to chase, you know, other than Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, you know, guys like that. So, you know, and this past week we really saw none of those hype guys really played that well. So that was the interesting thing. But yeah, I mean, I like that Jalen Waddle pick, and I think people should really look into him. You know, and then maybe you'll see an uptick in that. And
yeah, hopefully, man. I'm trying to push the market, man. Go buy Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
The one guy, and I just said it because we just recorded the podcast prior to this. I just said Sky Moore is my sneaky kind of pick. You know, to start getting an uptick in, you know, because I feel like with Mahomes, that team around him, I feel like I don't want to say he's going to be a Tyreek Hill type of wide receiver, but I think he has
the role.
Yeah, and I think he has that potential to be that game changer at like a slot position. And you know, I feel like not many people are talking about Sky Moore because of
not at all.
You know, all the other wide receivers that were in that draft class, because that was a wide receiver heavy draft class. So that's my guy that you know I was looking into.
Okay,
so.
Maybe I'll buy a little Sky Moore spot when someone starts out, you know.
Yeah, right. But that's really it. You want to plug your Instagram and you know whatnot and what?
Sure. My Instagram is at TrizztheRipper. I am the founder of the Positive Palace, along with all the guys that are in there with me every day, you included. I rip on Backyard Rips is the account. It's from the app Whatnot, and I rip almost every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday night. Schedule may vary, and other than that, I'm in the daytime sometime. But come check me out. Come get into a break. Come watch and learn about the hobby. I talk about stuff like this all the time, so feel free to come in there and learn too.
Nice. Now, quickly,
Sure.
where did Triz come from?
Oh man. So this is sort of embarrassing. My friend group from back home in high school, I had a group chat. Group chat name was Family Trees. Maybe you could insinuate where that comes from.
Yeah.
Not gonna clarify.
Yeah.
Group chat name is Family Trees. And you know how it is in high school, bro. You're all so young. Everybody has like stupid sayings and stupid jokes when
Yep.
you're in high school, whatever. Stupid things catch fire. And saying is at the end of everything just caught on fire. Like instead of pass me like the remote, like pass me the Riz. It's so dumb,
Okay.
but it caught on.
Yeah.
So Family Trees became
Family
Famatriz, one word.
Okay.
And then as a joke, we all changed our Instagram names to like Trizz something.
Okay.
So someone was like Trizz Ben, and I was like Trizz the Kid.
Okay.
And it stuck around. And I got back up to college because it was in college when we changed our names as the joke. All my boys were like, yo, Trizz, Trizz, Trizz. They thought it was so funny. So it just stuck with me, and I can't leave it now. So here we are.
Nice, nice. Well, that is TrizztheRipper. I was very excited to get him on the pod, and hopefully it's not his last time on. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.